Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be talking about the government efficiency. In other words, Doge. You see, if there's something everyone could agree on, is that the government has been overspending, wasting billions of dollars of money from taxpayers on things that just doesn't really matter in the government department. They just disappears just like that. And everybody thinks that this is an issue. So when Doge was introduced and putting Elon in charge, everyone thought that, well, this could be the perfect solution, right, for the US. This could be their way out. However, after it has come out, it has appeared to have several flaws and several problems with their ambition. And even though it sounds like a complicated topic that we have to dive into to find out the problem, I'm going to keep it simple by keeping it only in 5 points that is as simplified as possible. So let's get started. And now to my first point, which is transparency. The expectation versus the reality. So when this Doge was first created, it promised transparency. It promised everyone that you could see how the money flow, where they saved, so the people could know what they're spending, or rather what they're saving on, so they could gain the trust of the people, and also at the same time show their progress of the exact amount of money, the exact things that they're cutting and saving. But after a while, cracks started to show. What this means is that they have been reportedly getting caught for doing wrong. What I mean is that they are claiming credit for canceling deals that were already meant to be over with. They were meant to be canceled, but they still count it as one of their savings. Meaning, for example, the amount of the initial deal was what, and then they counted inside their savings, even though that deal was supposed to be demolished. A very good example is when they had this deal that was pretty big, and you get caught for them claiming that it is worth $8 billion, and they said that they're gonna claim that they saved $8 billion. However, that's not even remotely true, because in reality, that thing was only $8 million. And it is one of those little things that they try to hide and get caught. Some very easily found data hide in very hard to find places. So when this $8 million deal got exposed, what they said, instead of like saying, oh, sorry, we made a mistake, or sorry, we didn't mean to put it since it was a typo, no, they said that they didn't say anything actually. They just ran over that and they just got over with by fixing the problem and just moving on. And when reporters asked them questions, like hard questions about the details of how Doge work, instead of giving them like a detailed answer of how this worked, they just gave them a vague answer. They just entertained the question, or worse, they just ignored the question completely. So is this really what they're doing? Like, what are they doing exactly if it is so transparent, And now to my second point, which is misreports, mistakes, and misleading claims. So making mistake once, twice, it's fine. We overlook it. It happens. However, Doge has been caught multiple times multiplying the numbers that are supposed to be much lesser. And this did not just happen once, it happens multiple times. And they're also taking credit for the businesses who actually want to just end the contract with them. So for example, there are some businesses, they just want to end the contract. However, they're taking that scenario and putting it in their credit and saying that, oh, we saved money for the government because of this, even though the businesses are the one who ended the contract. Or there's another example saying that they take credit for those contracts which was naturally going to be expired. So that contract was going to expire for like maybe by the end of 7 years, and the 7 years has come and then they ended. But Doge, they take this opportunity and say, oh, we are cutting off spending here and this is the amount of money we save. But the money were naturally not going to be spent because the contract was already going to be ended, right? It's like saying, oh, I'm going to save money from Netflix from now on. But actually, you didn't save money from Netflix. It's just you didn't personally go cut it off. It's actually just because Netflix was the one who cut you off because of a non-payment. So it's like kind of that kind of situation, if you know what I mean. Moving on, not just that, Doge, they are cutting off stuffs that sometimes, right, it would come in with a payment, like lawsuit fees, termination fees, and so on. So these kind of things, right, they cost money. And sometimes it costs even more to remove them to keep them there in the short term. Yes, I know what you're saying. Oh, in the long term, it will save money. Yes, that's correct, but that's not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm trying to say here is that yes, they have saved money, but they completely didn't tell us the amount of money they spent trying to cut out this department. So they're not transparent on the actual amount that they saved. So maybe in the short term, they actually spend more than what they would have spent in that period of time, but they didn't tell us anything about that. Some of you might debate that they don't need to. Some people might say they need to. Well, I'm just putting it out there for you to judge. By the way, my content is just purely for entertainment. It's not financial advice or reporting in any way. So, you can be the judge of that. Moving on. And now to my third point, which is the impossible $2 trillion goal mark. So, what Elon Musk has claimed is that by the time of July 2026, they'll be able to cut $2 trillion of waste spendings off government. And that is ridiculous just to even say. Why do I say this? Is because in order to do this, they have to cut out $26 billion worth of waste spending from the government every single week starting this week until the July of 2026 in order to get to this point. That's impossible. But let's get more detail about this. How impossible is this? Well, to reference this, you would have to cut off NASA, the Department of Education, the EPA, the Commerce, Transportation, and Labor Department. After cutting all of this, you will still be far, 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 far away from the mark. To tell you how far it is, there will only be probably around 8% from the goal. So that's okay. Let's just round that up, 10%. So just 10% progress from the goal. That's ridiculous. But in case if you're asking, right, why did they aim for 2 trillion? Like, why would they say that if it's a ridiculous goal? Well, that's because every year, the US seems to be borrowing $2 trillion every year. So if they were to be able to cut down 2 trillion of spending from the government itself, then they will be doing themselves a huge help by severely reducing debts, and that's going to be absolutely great. However, even if they were to cut out the entire federal government itself, they would still be short by $250 billion. So it's practically impossible to achieve this. But you would probably ask, but the federal government, right, the entire spending add up together every year annually is about 6 trillion and above, right? Why would 2 trillion finish up the entire thing? Well, there are some departments they can't cut, which is like the health department and social security department, and also the part where they have to pay off interest rates, which interest rates, well, they can't. They have to claim that they're bankrupt to be able to not pay off interest rates, right? So those three things are not possible to be cut, and therefore, even if they cut out everything else, they wouldn't be able to pay it off. But that's what they're saying at the same time. They're saying that the Social Security are wasting money in some way within the department, and they're also saying that the health department is also wasting money some way within the department. So that's up to them if they are able to solve that problem, and we'll see if they are able to pull it off. However, it is still pretty unrealistic, because that will also mean that they have to cut off majority of the federal government's department to be able to achieve this feat, right? So it's pretty weird that you would aim this goal, even though it is pretty much impossible. So some people are pretty skeptical about why they do this. Is it for people that just say like, oh, they're trying to aim for this, or are they actually trying to achieve this? And if they are, how are they gonna achieve it? You know? Now moving on. And that's my fourth point, which is cutting too much, too fast, and too recklessly. You see, efficiency is great. However, cutting recklessly is dangerous. And that's exactly what Doge is doing for some people. You see, recently there was this scandal that Elon was so proud of, saying that, oh, they have stopped a $50 million funding, worth of funding of condoms to Gaza. Yeah, you heard me right. $50 million project of funding to Gaza for condoms. And they're so proud to cancel that. You know, honestly, yeah, it's a waste of money. And why would you do that? Why would you cut that? Why wouldn't you cut off? You see, the main problem here is that never happened. Yes, they did cut off a $50 million funding, but they did not cut off condoms to Gaza. What they did cut off is cut off $50 million worth of HIV prevention fundings to a place called Mozambique. And why would you? Okay, moving on, there's more. They also, there was this Ebola prevention funding, which they also cut off. That was to another place. But to a lot of people, this is actually a serious issue. Why? Because they're actually cutting off things that are actually worth spending on. What if health problems actually break out in these places? What if they actually end up having problems in that places just because you cut this spending, right? You see, to a lot of people, what they want this Doge to do is not just cut off spending, not just cut spending, but to cut smart. What this means is that they don't want you to just cut all the spendings they have, necessary or unnecessary. They want you to cut on things that would affect people positively, instead of cutting off things that would unintentionally cause harm to people. You see, to a lot of people right now, Doge is looking like they're more trying to be productive than actually trying to make a change. Well, yes, cutting money itself is making a change, but making a change in a negative way for a lot of people. Some people will view it differently, but some people view it as in them trying to create and stack up the numbers instead of trying to actually solve the main issue, which is not the main issue of what they're trying to do, but main issues of certain problems. And on to my fifth point, which is despite the flaws, the benefits are still there. You see, Doge, right, even though it's not what most people imagine it to be, with those reckless cuts and exaggerated impact that they falsely come up with, this is something that the core idea of this, of cutting government spending, is something that needs to happen, actually. It needs to happen to save the US from its overspending deficits, right? So it is not about the mission, it's about the execution. Plus, everything, even though I've said that they've noticeably double, tripled the number of the actual number, and they spread, I guess, false records, and they're also um, giving false reports and so on. Despite all of this, there are still a lot of those cuts that are real, and furthermore, they have actually created an impact, and their cause is actually correct, because this cause is actually going to benefit the US in the long term by reducing their spendings, which in my opinion is also very hard to find a way to reduce their spendings any other way. So, like I said, it is not about the mission, it's about the execution. If they were to do it accurately moving on from this point, there would still be the main reason why US is gonna look in a much better will look much better from now in a few years' time. This could still be the reason why. However, if they continue to fake the numbers and give fake reports, then maybe it won't be. Maybe it would just be a scandal after many years. However, if they do it right, it's gonna be a great job for them. So yeah, it is still up to you to believe whether this is a right or wrong cause. So what do you think? Comment down below. And now moving on to my conclusion. The conclusion is basically, even though Doge was created for the right cause, they've been exposed multiple times for different flaws that they have made. For example, putting fake numbers, cutting off causes that people strongly think should be funded, and trying to look more productive than actually trying to focus on the core cause of this project. But what do you think? I still think that Doge definitely probably have a huge impact in the long term, cutting off a lot of unnecessary government spending, even if it's necessary, but they don't see it as necessary. After cutting that off, it is still going to help the US in other ways. Plus, even if they don't reach the 2 trillion goal, it will also mean that the government don't need to spend, even if it's 1 trillion, it means that the government wouldn't need to spend even just 1 trillion more every year. So they can save from that as well. So it's gonna be benefiting them as well, even if they give fake numbers. For example, by July 2026, they do hit the 2 trillion goal, even though they give fake numbers. In reality, they only save about $1.5 trillion. That will still be great for the US in general. So there's its downsides, there's its flaws that many people like to pick, and there's also the beneficial side as well. So what do you think about this Doge department of the government? And I'm very interested in knowing what you think, and I've also reached the end of my video, which I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you like and subscribe. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.